Number 1, Homelander, The Boys. Homelander's what happens when the world puts blind faith in the wrong hero. On the outside, he's everything a superhero is supposed to be. Charming, patriotic, godlike. He wears the American flag like armor, smiles for the cameras, and talks about protecting the innocent. But behind the public image is something far more dangerous. A man who was never taught the difference between right and wrong. The truth is, Homelander was never a normal child. He wasn't raised in a loving home or taught good values. He was created in a lab by a company called Vought, using a chemical called Compound V, a formula developed to manufacture superheroes. He was a science experiment, raised in isolation with no real family, no emotional connection, and no guidance. Just power, control, and manipulation. That's what shaped him. With powers like flight, super strength, heat vision, and near invincibility, there was nothing and no one to keep him in check. And on top of all that, Homelander craves love and admiration more than anything. He doesn't just want people to respect him, he needs them to worship him. And when that approval starts to slip, so does his sanity. We've seen the consequences. He let a plane full of people die because it was inconvenient to save them. He's killed civilians with a smile. He's threatened to murder an entire crowd just for booing him. And the scariest part is, sometimes he's not even sure what he's done. In the comics, Homelander starts suffering from blackouts. He can't remember committing certain crimes, and it starts to break him mentally. Eventually, it's revealed that his clone, Black Noir, was the one behind those crimes all along. Vought created Noir as a backup plan in case Homelander ever went too far. Number 2, Negan, The Walking Dead. Negan was not only a villain, but also a walking nightmare with a baseball bat he called Lucille, and Lucille did a lot of bad things. Before the apocalypse, he was just a high school gym teacher with a failing marriage. But when the world collapsed, so did any sense of morality he had left. He didn't just adapt to the new world, he ruled it without mercy. At the height of his power, Negan controlled a brutal empire known as the Saviors. He didn't just lead them, he owned them. Every community he encountered had 2 choices, kneel or die. And for anyone who ever doubted his authority, he made an example out of them. Just ask Glenn and Abraham. When Rick's group crossed him, Negan lined them up and bashed their skulls in with his bat while laughing like it was a joke. He broke Rick mentally, forcing him into submission. As if bashing heads for fun wasn't cruel enough, Negan burned people's faces with iron, made husbands watch as he took their wives, and crushed anyone who dared challenge his rule. But what made Negan truly terrifying wasn't just his brutality, it was how much he enjoyed it. In his mind, he was just doing what needed to be done. He didn't see himself as evil, and he actually believed he wasn't. Negan was more than just a villain. He was a tyrant, a butcher, a man who believed fear was the only way to keep order. And for a while, he was right, until the people he terrorized finally stood up. Number 3, Walter White, Breaking Bad. Walter White started as a high school chemistry teacher with a raw deal, underpaid, overqualified, and diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. Knowing that he was about to die with his family's future in mind, he turned to cooking meth, thinking it was just a temporary way to make quick cash. But once he tasted power, there was no turning back. At first, Walter was just a desperate man trying to provide for his wife and kids, but soon he became Heisenberg, a ruthless kingpin who left a trail of destruction and bodies in his way. He poisoned a child just to manipulate Jesse. He watched Jane die and did nothing to save her. He ordered hit after hit, including the brutal prison massacre that wiped out all of his enemies in 2 minutes. On top of that, he even manipulated his own wife, using fear and control to keep her in line. Yet, that's not all. Walter ruins Jesse's life. He lets Jesse's girlfriend Andrea get murdered as revenge, poisons Jesse's son Brock, blows up Gus with a bomb, and even threatens to kill Skylar when she resists. But his worst act, letting Hank, his own brother-in-law, get executed after begging for his life. That moment proved Walter was no longer a family man. He was just a cold-blooded villain who put his empire above everything. Walter White didn't just break bad, he shattered every moral line he ever had. By the end, he had become exactly what he once despised. Not a desperate man, not a dying man, just a monster. Number 4, Harrison Wells' The Flash. Harrison Wells seemed like the brilliant and kind-hearted mentor that Barry Allen and Team Flash needed. He was the genius behind Star Labs, the man who helped Barry master his speed. But in The Flash Season 1, Episode 15, Out of Time, the truth came crashing down. Harrison Wells was never really Harrison Wells. He was Eobard Thawne, the reverse Flash, all along. Years before, Thawne, a speedster from the future, was stranded in the past after failing to kill Barry as a child. To regain his speed, he murdered the real Harrison Wells, stole his identity, and set everything in motion to create the Flash. For years, he worked closely with Barry, training him to be the best version of himself he could be, just so he could one day steal Barry's speed for himself. By the time Cisco discovered the truth, it was too late. Wells, or rather Thawne, didn't hesitate. In one of the most gut-wrenching moments of the show, he stabbed Cisco right through the heart, calling him a son before coldly ending his life. That moment also cemented him as one of TV's most evil villains. Harrison Wells wasn't a misguided mentor. He was a manipulative, time-traveling murderer who played the long game to perfection. To him, every act of kindness, every lesson, all a lie to serve his own twisted goals. When his mask finally slipped, there was no redemption, only the terrifying realization that Team Flash had been working alongside the monster they'd been hunting throughout the season. Number 5, the Joker. While other villains are driven by their own selfish desires, there is no logic to the Joker. No grandmaster plan, just pure unfiltered mayhem. He isn't after money, power, or control. He just wants to watch the world burn, and he enjoys every second of it while laughing through it all. Unlike most villains, the Joker doesn't have a so tragic backstory that justifies his madness. Every version of his past is a lie, a joke, or both. Sometimes he was a failed comedian, sometimes a gangster, but the only thing that stays the same is what he became, a grinning nightmare wrapped in purple and blood. His crimes are just evil. They're cruel, personal, and designed to break people. He paralyzed Barbara Gordon just to prove a point. On top of that, he brutally murdered Jason Todd, Batman's second Robin, beating him with a crowbar before leaving him to die in an explosion. And in The Dark Knight, he turned Gotham against itself, proving that with the right push, even the best people can become monsters. But his most evil act? Destroying Batman's soul. He doesn't want to kill him, he wants to break him and drag him into the madness. Every crime, every murder, every laugh is aimed at one goal, proving that nobody's truly good, not even Batman. He doesn't care who gets hurt or dies along the way. The Joker isn't just a villain, he's an unstoppable force of chaos, a nightmare that never dies, and the worst part is that he never needs a reason. He does it all just because it's fun. Number 6, Ramsay Bolton, Game of Thrones. Some villains have a reason for being cruel. Ramsay Bolton didn't need one. He was born a bastard, raised with nothing but brutality and ambition. When his father, Roose Bolton, finally acknowledged him as his heir, Ramsay saw it as a challenge. To prove he was worthy, he became a monster. Ramsay didn't just kill, he played with his victims. He hunted women for sport, setting them free just to chase them down with his dogs. He tortured Theon Greyjoy until he broke him completely, stripping him of his identity and even renaming him Reek, a fitting name for what was left of him. When Ramsay finally became the official heir of House Bolton, he took things to another level. He murdered his own father, fed his newborn brother to dogs, and married Sansa Stark, only to torment her in ways too horrific to describe and made Theon Greyjoy watch it all. He truly embodied his house's banner, the flayed man. He often crucified and skinned people alive just for fun. But Ramsay's biggest flaw was he thought he was untouchable. He underestimated Jon Snow and the fury of the North. When the time came, he lost everything. His army collapsed. His power crumbled and he was left helpless for the first time in his life. In the end, the same dogs he starved and trained to kill finally turned on him. Ramsay wasn't just evil. He enjoyed suffering. He laughed in its face. But in the end, he learned the hard way. Monsters don't always win. Number 7, Wilson Fisk, Daredevil. When we talk about evil villains on TV, it's easy to picture monsters or aliens. But sometimes, the most terrifying villains are human. Wilson Fisk, better known as Kingpin, is one of them. In Daredevil, Fisk isn't loud or dramatic. He's calm, polite, and absolutely ruthless. He controls New York's underworld like a chessboard, using both violence and influence. One minute he's in a boardroom. The next he's smashing someone's skull against a wall. He's a mix of brute force and brilliant strategy, and that's what makes him dangerous. Fisk doesn't think he's a villain. He believes he's fixing the city, bringing order to chaos. Though he has a soft spot, so he's capable of deep love. He adores Vanessa, the woman who helped shape his empire, and even promises to raise Maya Lopez after killing her father. His love doesn't soften him, it sharpens him. When he cares about someone, he'll destroy anything in his way. He has no superpowers, yet he regularly goes up against heroes like Daredevil and even Spider-Man. What he lacks in powers, he makes up for with raw strength, influence, and a terrifying calm. He uses the law, the media, and fear to stay in control. Kingpin's evil not because he wants to destroy the world, but because he wants to own it, slowly, quietly, piece by piece. Number 8, Omni-Man. Most TV villains are easy to understand. They want power, they want control, they want chaos. But Omni-Man? He's terrifying for a completely different reason. Because for a long time, no one thought he was a villain at all. To the world, Omni-Man was a hero, Earth's greatest protector, a loving husband, a proud father, a symbol of hope. His real name's Nolan Grayson, and everything about him seemed perfect, but none of it was real. Omni-Man didn't come to Earth to save it, he came to conquer it. He was part of the Viltrumite Empire, a powerful alien race built on strength and domination. Their mission? Send their strongest warriors to weaker planets like Earth and take them over from the inside. And that was exactly what Nolan was doing. Everything changed the day Omni-Man turned on his own team, the Guardians of the Globe, Earth's mightiest heroes. Without warning, he killed them all, quickly, brutally, and without regret. But the hardest part was still to come, facing his son Mark, better known as Invincible. When Mark refused to join him in conquering the planet, Omni-Man snapped. He nearly beat his own son to death, telling him that humanity was weak and meaningless. But then Nolan stopped. He didn't stop because Mark could win. He stopped because in that moment, he realized something terrifying. He loved his son. Most villains double down on their evil. Omni-Man didn't. Instead, he left Earth. Far from home, he tried to change. He ruled with kindness. He fought against his own people, and for the first time in his life, he tried to be a better man. Why does Omni-Man belong on this list? Omni-Man is one of TV's most unforgettable villains because of what he did. He killed Earth's greatest heroes, he betrayed the entire world, and he nearly destroyed his own son. But what makes him terrifying is that he wasn't born evil. He was supposed to be the hero. And that's what makes Omni-Man so chilling, because sometimes the scariest villains are the ones we trusted the most. Now we've come to the end of our video, so tell us, who'd we miss? Who's the villain that made your blood boil? Drop their name in the comments and smash that like button like Negan with a bat. And don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns.